Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Amritpal Singh. Coming up in the next 1 hour, India's foreign direct investment hits $1 trillion since April 2000. First half of the financial year 2024-25 sees a 26% increase to $42.1 billion. India's DGukesh becomes the world's youngest chess champion, beats China's Ding Lijian in the 14th and final game. Prime Minister Modi congratulates him, calls it historic and exemplary. Bangladesh court in Chittagong accepts the petition to expedite Indian religious figure Chinmoy Das's bail hearing. And Time magazine names US President-elect Donald Trump as the Person of the Year for the second time after 2016. Unrest in South Korea continues as opposition parties and a few people of the ruling People's Party have called for the martial law decree unconstitutional. President Yoon, defending his act, stated that it was a step to maintain order in the country. Meanwhile, protests continue against the president. Here is a report on the latest developments in the region. South Korea is facing a political turmoil since President Yoon Suk Yeol's botched martial law bid last week. The South Korean police on Thursday again conducted a raid on the presidential office to obtain documents and materials as part of a probe, a day after being blocked by the president's security guards. A week after a failed attempt, the president is to face an impeachment vote on Saturday. Defending the imposition of martial law, the president in a television speech vowed to fight for the people until the very last minute.
We must prevent the forces and criminal groups that have led the paralysis of government administration and disorder of national constitution from taking over the state administration and threatening the future of the Republic of Korea, no matter what. I will fight to the end.
The declaration has escalated tensions in the region and generated large protests, with about 50,000 protesters calling for Yoon's ouster. Hundreds of protesters clashed with police on Thursday as they attempted to break through the barricades and reach the embattled president's official residence in capital Seoul. Protesters managed to slip past hundreds of police and occupied a major road not far from Yoon's official residence, causing surrounding traffic to a grinding halt. But a defiant Yoon continues to blame the opposition for the crisis. Hours after Yoon's statement, South Korea's ruling party leader Han Dong-hoon urged its lawmakers to take a stand for Yoon's suspension.
The president should be immediately excluded from state administration, including the military leadership, as long it has been confirmed that the president has no intention of stepping down early. An immediate suspension of his duties is required.
Opposition parties on Thursday submitted a new bill to the parliament to impeach the president after his attempt to grant sweeping powers to the military failed last week. Amid the turmoil, the fate of the South Korean president remains uncertain. Bureau Report, DD India. And shifting focus from South Korea to Syria now. Political turmoil there also continues as a ruling body plans to suspend the constitution and the parliament. World leaders push new government to preserve Syria's territorial integrity and national unity.
Syria's interim government has vowed to establish the rule of law after years of repression under the ousted regime of Bashar al-Assad. On Thursday, The caretaker Prime Minister announced the suspension of the country's constitution and parliament for a 3-month transition period, prioritizing the preservation of institutions during this fragile time. Amidst these changes, there are mixed developments. While numerous prisoners have been freed following Assad's removal, countless others remain in detention. International organizations are intensifying calls for their immediate release, pressing for justice and human rights reforms in Syria. Meanwhile, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Jordan, emphasizing the need to prevent Syria from becoming a haven for terrorism. In a significant diplomatic push, Blinken held talks with Jordan's King Abdullah to address the displacement crisis.
The focus of our work here is to coordinate efforts across the region to support the Syrian people as they transition away from Assad's brutal dictatorship. And what we're focused on is not choosing a path for Syria, but making sure the Syrian people have the opportunity to choose their path forward.
Backing these efforts, leaders of the G7 called for the preservation of Syria's territorial integrity and national unity. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres expressed cautious optimism.
As we speak, we are witnessing the reshaping of the Middle East, with changes in the correlation of forces among the key regional actors, with the immense tragedy of the Palestinian people, whose right for self-determination and whose right to have their own state must be constantly reaffirmed.
But the road to recovery remains steep. Alongside political challenges, Syria's economic crisis is deepening. Years of conflict and international sanctions have driven food prices to a record high, leaving citizens struggling to afford daily necessities.
The prices of vegetables are unbearable. The price of 1 kilo of tomatoes is 15,000 Syrian pound and cucumbers are also expensive.
The purchasing activity is weak because people here inside the Zainab area don't have money. As you can see, I have everything here, but there are no customers.
Amidst this turmoil, there is a sense of homecoming for some. Hundreds of Syrians, including refugees, have begun returning to their homeland after opposition forces led by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham seized control of Damascus. The offensive brought an end to over 50 years of Assad family rule, which not just stunned the world, but offer a new ray of hope for Syria. With agency inputs, Tripti Tripathi for DD India.
And first of the 75 Indian nationals evacuated from Syria reached Delhi today. This is not the first evacuation of its nationals by India. It has earlier successfully executed multiple evacuation operations for its citizens in crisis zones. From Yemen to Ukraine, these missions have showcased India's diplomatic agility and dedication to its citizens' safety abroad.
India has demonstrated a strong commitment to the safety and well-being of its citizens abroad, particularly during times of geopolitical crises. Various operations in the past few years highlight the country's diplomatic agility and logistical capabilities in evacuating nationals from conflict zones. Let's look at some of the notable operations. 2011 Operation Homecoming. This operation evacuated 15,400 Indian nationals from Libya during its internal conflict. 2014 Kerala Nurses Rescue. The Indian government successfully brought back 46 nurses trapped in Iraq's Tikrit, ensuring their safe return from areas controlled by ISIS. 2015 Operation Rahat. Over 4,000 Indians and foreign nationals were evacuated from Yemen amid the civil war, facilitated by a call from Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the Saudi King. 2020 Operation Samudra Setu. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Indian Navy rescued around 4,000 Indians stranded at sea, covering over 23,000 kilometers. 2020 to 2022 Operation Vande Bharat Mission. This was one of the largest civilian evacuation efforts, facilitating the return of nearly 2.97 crore Indians from abroad during the pandemic. 2021 Operation Devi Shakti. Following the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan, India rescued 669 individuals, including Indian nationals and members of the Afghan Hindu and Sikh minority community. 2022 Operation Ganga. Over 22,500 Indians were evacuated from Ukraine amid the conflict, with extensive airlift operations conducted. 2023 Operation Kaveri. In response to conflict in Sudan, this operation successfully evacuated over 3,000 Indians from various locations within the country.
These operations reflect India's proactive stance in ensuring the safety of its citizens in crisis situations, showcasing the effective coordination between various government agencies and diplomatic channels. With Calberson, Piyush, this is Taposh Bhattacharya for DD India from Delhi.
Efforts to secure a Gaza ceasefire and free Israeli hostages is gaining momentum. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan's talks with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have set the stage for further negotiations involving Egypt and Qatar. The renewed push comes as the UN General Assembly adopted a resolution demanding an immediate and unconditional Gaza ceasefire. The resolution saw overwhelming support, with 158 nations voting in favor, 9 against, including the US and Israel, and 13 abstentions. More in this report.
Amid the ongoing West Asia conflict, there are fresh signals of a potential ceasefire deal between Israelis and Palestinians, the first in over a year. The deal aims to pause fighting in Gaza and facilitate the release of hostages held in the enclave. The development follows discussions between U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Sullivan is also engaging with key mediators Egypt and Qatar to push the ceasefire negotiations forward. Meanwhile, the UN General Assembly has passed a resolution demanding an immediate and unconditional Gaza ceasefire. The resolution garnered 158 votes in favor, while 9 countries, including the US and Israel, voted against it. 13 nations abstained. Washington insists a ceasefire must be tied to the release of all hostages in Gaza, arguing that Hamas would otherwise lack the incentive to release them.
The messages we send to the world through these resolutions matter, and both of these resolutions have significant problems. One rewards Hamas and downplays the need to release the hostages, and the other denigrates Israel without providing a path forward to increasing humanitarian assistance to Palestinian civilians.
In Lebanon, Israeli forces have started withdrawing from a southern town as part of a ceasefire agreement that came into effect on November 27. The deal will see the Lebanese military and UN peacekeepers deploy in the area, with the Israeli withdrawal expected to conclude within 60 days. With diplomatic efforts intensifying across multiple fronts, the coming days will reveal if these steps can pave the way for peace in the region. Bureau Report, DD India.
And still to come on DD India Newshour, French President Emmanuel Macron says only peace possible in the Ukraine war is a sustainable one. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visits Zaporizhzhia front in the southeastern Ukraine. And an extraordinary IAEA Board of Governors meeting begins in Vienna. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Amritpal Singh. NATO head Mark Rutte has warned that US-led transatlantic alliance on Thursday that it was not ready for the threats it would face from Russia in the coming years and called for a shift to a wartime mindset with much higher defense spending. Rutte said that NATO members had spent more than 3% of the GDP on defense during the Cold War, and future spending would have to be much higher than the current alliance target of 2%.
Russia's economy is on a war footing. In 2025, the total military spending will be 7 to 8% of GDP, if not more. That's a third of Russia's state budget and the highest level since the Cold War. And Russia's defense industry is producing huge numbers of tanks, armored vehicles and ammunition. What Russia lacks in quality, it makes up for in quantity, with the help of China, Iran and North Korea. This all points in one clear direction. Russia is preparing for long-term confrontation with Ukraine and with us.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visited the troops on the southern front in Zaporizhia region. In a post on social media, Zelensky highlighted his visit to the 27th Rocket Artillery Brigade, known as Ukraine's HIMARS division, for their use of US-supplied rockets. In a video shared on his channel, Zelensky was seen addressing soldiers in a bunker and presenting state awards to some of them, praising their efforts on the battlefield. French President Emmanuel Macron said on Tuesday that the only possible peace in the war in Ukraine was a sustainable peace and that any peace deal in Ukraine must include the Ukrainians. Macron was in Warsaw to discuss the European support for Ukraine with Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk, just weeks before Poland takes over the EU presidency from Hungary. The visit comes ahead of President-elect Trump's inauguration in January next year, as Europe wishes to show willingness to engage in Ukraine's situation directly.
The
only possible peace is a sustainable peace, that is to say, a peace which is negotiated by the Ukrainians and which allow them to have security solution for the long term. And in the end, we share and we have just measured the same will to say no peace in Ukraine without the Ukrainians. That is, we cannot discuss concessions. The point to put on the table for the Ukrainian in their name, that is for them to do. But no security in Europe without European, and that is the importance of the debate that we have and are ongoing.
French President Emmanuel Macron was expected to name a new Prime Minister on Thursday, a week after the MPs toppled the government, with politicians across the spectrum holding their breath. Macron has promised to name a replacement government chief within 48 hours after meeting party leaders at his Élysée Palace office on Tuesday. But he remains confronted with the complex political equation that emerged from July's snap parliamentary polls on how to secure a government against a no-confidence motion in the lower house, split three ways between a leftist alliance, the centrists and the conservatives. And the far-right National Rally Greens leader Marine Tondelier urged Macron to get out of his comfort zone as he casts around for a name. The extraordinary meeting of the IAEA Board of Governors began in Vienna on Thursday, focusing on the situation in Ukraine. Representatives from both Russia and Ukraine are participating in the discussions. On Tuesday, a drone strike severely damaged an official vehicle with the International Atomic Energy Agency while en route to Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. Both Russia and Ukraine have accused each other of being responsible for the incident. Lithuania's new centre-left government was sworn in on Thursday after Parliament approved its program focused on social policy, aid for Ukraine and defence against neighbouring Russia. The government of the Baltic EU and NATO nation comprises three parties, including the Nemunas Dawn, whose leader is on trial for alleged anti-Semitic remarks. The program pledges to support Ukraine before and after victory and to assist in Kyiv's accelerating its EU and NATO membership. It also commits to allocating 0.25% of GDP annually in military support for Ukraine. Lithuania is already one of the top donors to Ukraine's relative to its economic size. The government has also vowed to raise the defense budget at least by 3.5% of the GDP. Demonstrators continued flocking the streets in Tbilisi and chanting slogans against the new government as protests entered into the 14th day. While the government is making crackdowns claiming violence by protesters, the latter deny, saying that they are only retaliating against the police attacks. Meanwhile, the European Union has warned of the government of consequences for actions against protesters. Protests erupted in Black Sea nation after Georgia's recent decision to shelve the talks of accession into the European Union until 2028. Time magazine on Thursday named US President-elect Donald Trump as its person of the year, citing his deep impact on American politics and the country's role in the world. The news magazine had previously bestowed the Person of the Year title to Trump in 2016 after his first presidential election victory. It named Democratic President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris as the Person of the Year in 2020 after they defeated Trump. Pop star Taylor Swift received the title last year. The latest Person of the Year issue, which features a wide-ranging interview with Trump conducted on November 25th at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida. And to commemorate the Time selection, Trump rang the opening bell of the New York Stock Exchange, where he was joined by Kennedy, wife Melania, daughters Ivanka and Tiffany, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance and Scott Bessent, Trump's pick for the Treasury Secretary. The bell ringing signifies the start of the trading day at the world's largest stock exchange and is considered an honor. It has historically been reserved for the company executives celebrating an initial public offer or other major corporate milestones, but celebrities and politicians like Ronald Reagan, Nelson Mandela and Arnold Schwarzenegger have also rung it. The Russian head of deputy head of security Dmitry Medvedev, who arrived for a 2-day visit to Beijing on Thursday, handed over to the Chinese leader Xi Jinping a personal message from Russian President Vladimir Putin. According to Russia's news outlets, China is willing to strengthen its strategic alignment with Russia. She told Medvedev, adding that the Beijing and Moscow must maintain close cooperation in multilateral fora. She also told Dmitry Medvedev that both parties should lead the global governance in the right direction and gather consensus among friendly political parties in all countries, especially the global south. Medvedev's visit, his first one into China since December 2022, would include discussions with senior Chinese government officials. Taiwan has called on China to cease escalating military activities in nearby waters, citing regional instability and disruptions to international shipping. Meanwhile, the US has acknowledged the rising Chinese presence, but it did not see that wider activity as a response to Taiwanese President Lai Ching's Tay's recent US visit.
Taiwan has been calling on China to halt its ongoing military activities in nearby waters, which it claims are destabilizing the region and disrupting international shipping. Taipei said on Thursday it detected 16 Chinese warships in waters around the island, one of the highest numbers this year, as Beijing intensifies military pressure. US has acknowledged increased Chinese military activity but stated it did not view it as a response to President Lai Ching-te's recent visit to the US.
It is customary for the Taiwan president to make overseas trips. Taiwan's normal exchanges should not be an excuse for Chinese provocations. Our military is closely monitoring the situation and will be able to react accordingly to ensure peace.
Taiwan's defense ministry said on Thursday that over the past 24 hours, it had detected 34 Chinese military aircraft operating around the island, down from the 53 aircraft it reported the previous day.
China's behavior is a blatant disruption of the status quo of security and stability in the Indo-Pacific region, creating uneasiness and uncertainties among the international society. Many world leaders condemn China for violating international terms, threatening regional peace and stability, and call on China to play its part as a member of the region and stop all provocative acts immediately.
Two senior members of Taiwan's government, Lin Fei-fan and Su Zhu-xian, are in US to meet the members of President-elect Donald Trump's team. This is seen as an effort by Taiwan to establish ties with the incoming administration. China, which views democratically governed Taiwan as its own territory, had been expected to launch drills to express its anger at Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te's tour of the Pacific that ended on December 6th, which included stopovers in Hawaii and the US territory of Guam. Bureau Report, TT India.
And now updates from Bangladesh, where the Chattogram Metropolitan Sessions Court has accepted senior lawyer Rubinder Ghosh's petition to expedite Chinmoy Krishnadas's bail hearing. The court accepted the petition on a condition to have a lawyer from Chattogram to stand with Ghosh during the hearing. Rubinder Ghosh subsequently recruited local lawyer Sumita Acharya to stand with him. The move comes a day after the court dismissed an anticipatory bail application for Das, citing the absence of a power of attorney from a Chattogram Bar Association member. Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. Swedish prosecutors closed a rape and sexual assault investigation on Thursday due to insufficient evidence. The case, which local media suggested involved French footballer Kylian Mbappe, centered around the alleged incidents at a Stockholm hotel on the 10th of October. Organized crime groups in Ecuador are increasingly stealing fuel from the state-run oil company Petro-Ecuador, leading to cumulative losses of $15.1 million from 2022 to October 2024. While the theft is a small portion of the prosecutors' Petro-Ecuador's $7.5 billion contribution to national economy, it has raised concerns due to its links to drug trafficking and impact on public finances. A fire broke out at a residential high-rise building in southern Chinese city of Shenzhen. 16 fire trucks and 80 rescue personnel arrived at the incident site for the rescue operation. Authorities are predicting gas explosion as the cause of the fire. Still to come on DD India Newshour, we'll discuss the ongoing turmoil in South Korea and what future could hold for President Yoel, with a special guest on the show. UPRO continues to stall proceedings of the Indian Parliament. Upper House adjourned for the day. Lower House passes the Disaster Management Bill. And the two-day India Maritime Heritage Conclave 2024 concludes in the capital, New Delhi. You're watching DDI India Newshour. I'm Amritpal Singh. In South Korea's National Assembly, 200 votes are required to impeach President Yoon Suk Yeol. The assembly has a total of 300 seats, with the opposition bloc holding 192 seats and the ruling People Power Party controlling 108. For the impeachment motion to pass, all opposition members must vote in favor, along with at least 8 additional votes from the ruling party. If approved, the president will be suspended, triggering a constitutional court hearing that must deliver a ruling within 180 days. If 6 out of the 9 judges support impeachment, the president will be removed from office, prompting a new election within 60 days. The situation intensifies as both sides prepare for this crucial vote. Okay, going back to our story on South Korea to discuss the developments, I'm joined by Ambassador S.R. Tayal. He's a former senior diplomat. He's joining me from Delhi. Okay. Good evening, Ambassador Tayal. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So thank you for joining us on the show, taking our time for us. President Yeol, in a U-turn, now says that he's not going to step down, he's going to brazen it out. He said, what I did to protect my country. He called it a parliamentary dictatorship. Over the weekend, he was saying it was a misjudgment, an act of desperation. I apologize for it. Why the change in strategy?
Today morning, Thursday morning, again, he addressed the nation. This was his 4th address. And he defended his action, and he said it was an act of governance. It was not treason or anything of that kind. What seems to have happened is that his party has about 108 members, People's Party.
People's Power Party, yeah.
Yeah. And there was a floor test, and President Yoon's supporter has become the leader of the party in the National Assembly. Whereas the national leader of the entire party, People's Power Party, is opposed to President Yoon.
Okay.
Now, if a party whip is issued and is followed by all the National Assembly members of the People's Power Party, then the impeachment motion will again be defeated, as it was defeated last Saturday.
Right.
Some members of the People's Power Party have said that this time they will vote as per their conscience and not follow the party way. So it is very open question that whether 8 members of the People's Power Party will break ranks and join the opposition to pass this motion of impeachment. It is likely to be passed, but we have to wait till Saturday. And if it is not passed, then President Yoon is safe because he cannot be impeached. He refuses to resign.
Okay, so I got that. So the opposition needs 8 votes of the ruling party MPs or members of parliament to go past the motion to get him impeached. But you're saying that if a whip is issued, can the ruling party MPs defy the whip?
Yes, it is possible.
Okay.
They can defy the whip, and
their vote will be counted. They'll not be disqualified. Their vote wouldn't be disqualified.
It will not be disqualified because the speaker is of the opposition party. Because the opposition party has the majority. So the disqualification, if at all, it will be done by the speaker, and the speaker is opposed to President Yoon.
Okay. What happens if President Yoon is, the parliament impeaches him? What happens then?
Then he will be relieved from office, and the Prime Minister will become the interim president and interim chief executive officer. And as you said, there is a constitution bench of the Supreme Court, which has 9 judges. They have 6 months to hear the case, and then within 6 months they are to give an order which should be approved by at least 2/3 majority. That means at least 6 judges of the 9 judge constitution bench should approve impeachment.
Exactly.
Otherwise,
So, Ambassador Tal, those 9 judges of the constitutional bench would be appointees of President Yoon. So, getting 6 of them to decide against President Yoon, how big a possibility is that, or what is the possibility of that?
To my understanding, they are not appointees of President Yoon, because like Supreme Court judges and Constitution Bench judges, they have certain tenure, and they may be having a tenure which predates President Yoon's appointment as president, which happened in 2022. So perhaps they would not be. A few of them might be, but not all of them.
Okay, so there a possibility exists. Why is he Why is he brazening it out? Why isn't he cutting a deal with his own party? Because they've offered him that you resign, you put in your papers, and we'll see to it that criminal charges against you or your wife are not brought in. What gives him that gung-ho to go and brazen it out? Does he really believe he'll survive it?
In fact, the criminal charges are going on parallelly. Police has raided his office. There is a travel ban on a president of a country, unheard of. Their special counsels have been appointed by the parliament by the National Assembly to investigate all kinds of charges against him. So how will he weather all these attacks which are coming from different quarters? The president may be arrested. I don't think president there has some kind of immunity that for any action in office he is immune, as it is in United States. So it is very difficult to understand that what exactly is he trying to do. 75% of the people of South Korea want him out, whether he should resign or impeach, but they don't want him as their president. And he is trying to brazen it out, but he can continue as president in case he is not impeached, in case he refuses to resign. And then if the police tries to arrest him, then what kind of constitutional crisis will it be? If the police makes a case of treason and that is tried in a court by prosecutors, the process is also underway, and a court convicts him of treason, then of course he will have to leave office. So there are several ways in which he can leave office, but as of now he has decided to brazen it out. And Saturday, if he is not impeached by the National Assembly, then there will be a long delay in his leaving office, and the governance in South Korea will be practically paralyzed.
No, but the governance is anyway paralyzed, because his parliament, which is now ruled by the most of the members are the opposition. They veto his whatever decisions he takes. So he's anyway in a limbo. Now added to that is this whole political crisis, and people are out on the roads. They want him out. To you, what is the sense that you get? How long will this play out? Because the opposition is not backing down either. They're saying, well, if we lose it this time around, we'll bring it up next Saturday.
Yes, it will continue like that. Then also the prosecutors can speed up their findings and go to court and try to get him sentenced on treason and other charges. And the judicial system in Korea is very fast. They can take decisions very, very quickly. So that would be another route for him to be compelled to leave office. So one course is in the National Assembly by repeated impeachment motions, and other course is by the police and by the prosecutors to sentence him, get a sentence from court on the charges of treason.
Okay. Ambassador S.R. Tayal, we'll leave it there. We'll watch the unfolding situation there very closely. But many thanks for joining us and putting it in context this evening. Thank you. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi received Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the Deputy Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister of UAE, in New Delhi on Thursday. The two leaders emphasized strengthening comprehensive strategic partnership, including in the areas of technology, energy, people-to-people ties. Prime Minister laid special emphasis on implementation of the India-Middle East-Europe corridor as a historic initiative to foster regional connectivity and prosperity. Prime Minister Modi conveyed his warm wishes to President of the United Arab Emirates, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. He expressed satisfaction at the frequent high-level visits and exchanges, including the visit of the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi to India in September 2024, which marked a generational continuity in bilateral relations. Well, there's good news for the Indian economy, as India has achieved a remarkable milestone in its economic journey, with the gross foreign direct investment inflows reaching an impressive $1 trillion since April 2000. This landmark achievement was bolstered by a nearly 26% rise in FDI to $42.1 billion during the first half of the current fiscal year. Initiatives like Make in India, liberalized sectoral policies, and the goods and services tax have enhanced investor confidence, while the competitive labor costs and strategic incentives continue to attract multinational corporations. Talking about the Parliament now, opposition continues to disrupt Indian Parliament even in the third week of the winter session. BJP stepped up its attack on the Congress party, accusing it of having links with US billionaire George Soros. Amid ruckus by the opposition, the upper house, that's the Rajya Sabha, was adjourned for the day, while in Lok Sabha, the Disaster Management Amendment Bill 2024 was passed. More in this report.
Opposition continues to disrupt Indian Parliament even in the third week of the winter session. Leader of the House, JP Nadda, criticized the frequent disruptions in Rajya Sabha. He condemned Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge's press conference as it goes against parliamentary principles. The leader of the House proposed to bring a motion condemning the behavior of the opposition.
खरगे जी जो इतने सीनियर लीडर हैं, उनको इतनी इल्म होना चाहिए, इतनी जानकारी होनी चाहिए कि the ruling of the chairman is final and the ruling of the chairman is unquestioned. और वह भी हाउस के अंदर नहीं, हाउस के बाहर इस तरीके का आरोप लगाना यह बहुत ही निंदा योग्य है.
Leader of the House in the Rajya Sabha, while attacking the opposition, asked the Congress to explain what is the relationship between Sonia Gandhi and George Soros, while in the Lok Sabha too, BJP MP Nishikant Dubey raised the issue.
FDL AP जो कश्मीर को अलग देश मानता है, उसके साथ राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन पे सोनिया गांधी के साथ क्या संबंध है, जिसको सोरोस फंड करता है? सोनिया और सोरोस का रिश्ता क्या है?
There were 6 notices given in the Rajya Sabha under Rule 267 by the opposition. All 6 notices were rejected by the chairman. Leader of opposition Mallikarjun Kharge claimed that the chairman was not being fair to the opposition benches. While outside the House, Union Minister Giriraj Singh made allegations against Sonia Gandhi and George Soros. The Union Minister showed the photos of both in the Parliament House complex. Meanwhile, business in the Lok Sabha proceeded and the Disaster Management Amendment Bill 2024 was passed.
SDRF में 2014 से 2004 से 2014 के बीच 38,000 करोड़ का बजट था, जो 2014 से 2024 में 3 गुना बढ़कर 1,24,000 करोड़ हो गया. एनडीआरएफ फंड में मात्र 28,000 करोड़ का बजट था, जो 2014 से 2024 में 3 गुना बढ़कर 79,000 करोड़ रुपया।
During question hour, Road Transport and Highways Minister Nitin Gadkari said that the government is making efforts to minimize road accidents in the country.
हमने ऑटोमोबाइल इंजीनियरिंग में भारत एनकैप करके रेटिंग शुरू कर दिया। इकोनॉमिक मॉडल में 6 एयर बैग्स लगने लगी, पूरे ऑटोमोबाइल सुधार कर दिए। रोड इंजीनियरिंग में कमियां थी, 40,000 करोड़ रुपए ब्लैक स्पॉट इंप्रूवमेंट के लिए हम खर्चा कर रहे हैं, काफी ब्लैक स्पॉट्स हमने दूर किए।
TMC moved a motion against Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiren Rijiju for terming opposition MPs unworthy of House. The notice was endorsed by 60 opposition MPs. BJP issued a 3-line whip notice to its MPs for debate on Constitution on December 13th and 14th. Anil Thomas, DD India, New Delhi.
India's Minister of Information and Broadcasting, Ashwini Vaishnav, addressed the 10th edition of the India Economic Conclave on Thursday. In his address, Minister Vaishnav elaborated on the 4 pillars supporting India's goal of becoming one of the top 3 economies in the world.
It's basically built on 4 major pillars. First pillar is massive public investment in social, physical and digital infrastructure. Second pillar is huge focus on manufacturing and innovation. And the third pillar is, since our society is very diverse and especially on the economic scales, there is huge diversity. So the third pillar is basically large number of programs which are creating a very inclusive growth. And the fourth pillar is simplification. And because of this very clear thought process and because of the execution which has happened in the last 10 years, we are well set to become one of the top 3 economies in the coming years.
And the minister also spoke about the semiconductor manufacturing in India and its target to export made in India chips by mid-2025.
Our country tried getting semiconductor industry into India way back in 1962. Lots of efforts were made. I don't say that the efforts were in any case lacking. Efforts must have been proper, but fortunately it's only during Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji's period that we got success. Our policy was announced on the 1st Jan of 2022 and here we are in December of 2024 and we have already 5 units where the construction work is going on and somewhere in the middle of 25 we should see the first made in India chip shipping out.
Day 2 of the Global Economic Policy Forum 2024 organized by CII is underway in New Delhi. Addressing the challenge of sustainability, Bhupender Yadav, the Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, emphasized on adopting a holistic approach towards dealing with climate crisis and sustainability. Now time for some sports news. India's Grandmaster DGukesh has scripted history by becoming the youngest ever chess champion on Thursday. Gukesh defeated Ding Lijian of China in the decisive game 14 of the World Chess Championship in Singapore to clinch the title. Here's a report.
Can't capture the significance of this moment.
History was made as 18-year-old Indian GM DGukesh defeated Chinese GM Ding Lijian in the final game 14 of the World Chess Championship to become the youngest world champion in the history of the sport. With his monumental win, Gukesh has become the 18th GM and just the second Indian GM after the legendary Vishwanathan Anand to win the World Championship title. The defending champion was pushed to his absolute limits as well, with Gukesh leaving him flustered in the endgame, eating away at Ding's time. Nearing the end, the Chinese GM was left scrambling with less than 10 minutes left on the clock, while Gukesh sat comfortably with over an hour as the pressure mounted. Gukesh's persistence paid off as Ding blundered whilst fighting against the clock, allowing Gukesh to take over and find the historic win. India's President Draupadi Murmu congratulated chess grandmaster DGukesh on his historic World Championship win. She took to social media platform X and said, "Heartiest congratulations to Gukesh for becoming the youngest player to win the World Chess Championship. He's done India immensely proud. His victory stamps the authority of India as a chess powerhouse. Well done, Gukesh. On behalf of every Indian, I wish you sustained glory in the future. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated chess grandmaster DGukesh for being crowned World Chess Champion. Prime Minister Modi wrote on X, and I quote, "Historic and exemplary. Congratulations to Gukesh D on his remarkable accomplishment. This is the result of his unparalleled talent, hard work and unwavering determination. His triumph has not only etched his name in the annals of chess history, but has also inspired millions of young minds to dream big and pursue excellence. My best wishes for his future endeavours." Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports Mansukh Mandavia also congratulated Gukesh on his triumph. Chess prodigy, extending my warm wishes to DGukesh for clinching the prestigious World Chess Championship title and becoming the youngest world champion in the history of chess. Your hard work and dedication has made the entire nation proud. In his career, Gukesh has already quoted plenty of history, but for now, he'll savor the feeling of being a world champion, a dream he has held and chased with single-minded dedication since he was 11. Mehraj Singh's report, DD India.
And my colleague Marklin, who very closely follows chess, joins me on the show. Thank you, Mark. Opening question, what does this win mean?
Well, it's probably one of the biggest days in Indian sport, first of all. Definitely the biggest day in Indian chess. I mean, even though Vishwanathan Anand has been world champion, this is an 18-year-old chess grandmaster who just 10 years ago, was sitting and watching the match between Anand and Carlsen in Chennai as an 8-year-old boy. And he was hoping that he would be world champion one day. And that inspired him. Then he went on to become a grandmaster, one of the youngest in the world. Then he watched the second world championship match between Carlsen and Nepomniachtchi in Dubai. There again, he learned how he said, "This is where I belong." And he had that dream, he pursued it, and a lot of things fell into place. That's what he says. He thanks God for that. He seems to have a firm faith in God. He thanks his parents who have gone out of their way to, give him everything that he wanted to achieve this dream. Okay. And then he had a phenomenal team. A team of people. He had a mental coach, somebody to give him, confidence. He had the mentorship of Vishwanathan Anand, and he had a team of seconds, 5 grandmasters working with him. Okay. 3 of them were Polish grandmasters, so I don't understand why the Polish grandmasters were so keen on helping India. But anyway, 3 of them were Polish grandmasters, and one of them was an Indian grandmaster, Hari Krishna, and the 5th one was a German grandmaster around the same age as as Gukesh.
All of them 18-year-olds?
No, not all of them. I'm just saying only Vincent Kemar was a young man. He's about 20 years old, but of that age group, in this group.
Okay. Let's talk about today's game. How do you analyze that, and what worked for Gukesh?
Well, Gukesh has been pressing home, first of all, he came into this match as the favorite. He's at least 60 points ahead, ELO points ahead of Ding Liren at the current time, Ding Liren. Ding, of course, has been a great player of the past, but his best is behind him. I mean, he was one of the top players in the history of the game. Even Gukesh says so. In 2018, Ding Liren went 100 games without being defeated. He was the first player in the history of the game to do that. Magnus Carlsen only caught up with that record later on in 2019. And Ding Liren has produced in this tournament despite suffering from some sort of motivational problems. He has a little bit of a depression problem. He suffers from anxiety. That might have hit him in this particular game because it was a clear draw, but Gukesh kept pushing him till the end and sort of cracked, made a stupid move for a person of his caliber, and as a result of that, lost the game.
Yeah, I mean, remember we were sitting in the newsroom and watching the game together, and one silly mistake that he makes towards the end.
That's right.
So was that his undoing in today's game?
Well, I mean, it seemed like he was nervous for some reason. Probably he has been saying for a while now that he doesn't enjoy this game anymore. He doesn't enjoy chess. He doesn't feel motivated enough, to play the game. So he's been suffering from some sort of an anxiety problem, and we could see that during the match itself. he kept worrying, he kept getting nervous, taking very long to play certain moves. He felt he was in uncomfortable territory. So he was battling demons in his own mind, but he was coming up with some phenomenal moves. And one of the best games he's played in his career was the 12th game, where even Gukesh says, he's learned from Ding because he's suffering from whatever he was suffering from. He came back and he was able to give a very strong fight. And kudos to him, he called him a real champion. As a result of that, he's learned from Ding how to deal with these issues. Speaking on for fans of Ding as well. I mean, not that I'm a fan of Ding, but as a fan of chess, one would hope that he gets back to being a peak player, because chess really requires a player of his caliber.
How old is Ding?
Ding is 32 years old. And he was at his peak at 2,800 player in the 2017 to 2018 period of time, second behind Magnus Carlsen for a reasonable period of time. And he's played against the best and beaten the best. That's the way it is.
Yeah,
that's the story of the game.
Yeah,
but India, of course, this is also a day 12-12 is the date. And Gukesh is 18, and he's the 18th Grandmaster, 18th World Champion.
Yeah. So that the date clearly belongs to him. He becomes the youngest world champion.
Right.
Mark Lin, many thanks for joining us on the show and putting that in context. Thank you. And India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched Waves, entering the field of OTT platform. Waves provides a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. If you want great content for free, then download the Waves today. And that's it from me. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.